Hey, this is your host V from Creative Block. I will be representing Creative Block at Lightbox Expo in Pasadena, October 24th to 26th at table 505. Come say hi and grab some free merch. On to the episode. Hey, welcome to Creative Block. We're your hosts, V
and Sean, aka Lord Spew. We talk shop with other creatives in animation and comics about things like finding your artistic path and the process of making art while we doodle on Magma.
We asked people on social medias if they had specific topics they wanted us to discuss, as well as some drawing prompts. By the way, we're so close to reaching 10K on our YouTube channel. So if you want to click the subscribe button or the follow button, please do that. And we're trying to reach 10K by January. We're so close. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that.
Today we have with us MILO, Ren, and REID from Studio FLIMPO. Welcome.
Studio FLIMPO.
Hello.
Hi.
How'd you come across this name? How'd you come across this name, Studio FLIMPO?
Take it away, Ren.
Sure. I'm Ren, and I'll take it away. Studio Flimpo came from something between an inside joke and a character that I made. So while we were in college together, we were all in a D&D campaign that I ran, and there was an NPC that I named Flimpo. Now, this NPC, for the sake of, I guess, copyright, is a floating jellyfish, an egg jellyfish to be exact. And this character was half a joke character, but he ended up being a sort of recurring in-joke and beloved NPC by all of the players, which included the other two members of Studio Flimpo, MILO and REID. And when we were trying to come up with names for our studio, we were just like, okay, silly words, funny words. And I don't even remember who suggested it, but because we all had this attachment to Flimpo, the jellyfish character, we decided to use his name and use him as our mascot.
That's a good a story as any that I've heard. I know some people just use like a name generator, but naming something at the beginning is so hard when you're trying to capture the vibe. That's cool that you stumbled across something so organically.
Proud to thank Flimpo for such a sweet name, and I love how people think that it's like Filmpo, or there's like so many common like misspellings or mispronunciations of them. I've kind of
film positivity.
Yeah, I've kind of embraced it at this point. Because, like, you know, I think my grandma still calls it, like, Filmpo or Flipmo. But, you know, it's whatever. We're creatives.
We've heard many variations.
Yeah. I feel like Filmpo makes, like, so much sense because you guys are doing films pretty much. I mean, like, you know, animation is pretty much films.
Animation is pretty much films, and film is in Filmpo, so it would make sense, but no.
It would make sense, but entirely unrelated.
Well, Flipmo is funny because Busta Rhymes had a song where he goes, "Flip mode, Flipmo is the greatest," and that's like what I see every time I see the name on accident. I just hear Busta Rhymes say, "Flipmo is the greatest," and I don't know what that means.
He's right. Flipmo is the greatest.
Flipmo is the greatest.
Maybe he was just mispronouncing his favorite indie animation studio, like, you know, years ahead of, you know, our time. Maybe he just, like, divined the future. It's likely. Crazier stuff has happened.
Crazier stuff. Did you all meet through D&D, or did you all know each other prior to D&D? Were you, like, I wonder how you came together as a group, because that can be sometimes kind of daunting, right? Finding partners that you really enjoy their creativity and like kind of undertaking this like thing together of creating like a work group, you know, like a shared like a studio.
So we met in a very big D&D session, also known as art school, and yeah, me and Ren were dorm neighbors. We lived on the same floor in the freshman dorm, and I also met REID. I think it was Accepted Students Day, and over the course of college, we became great friends. We made a group chat. Our first ever like group chat where it was like just the three of us specifically was during our second year animation class, which was during, you know, the lockdown. So we got a lot closer during that time. Like doing all-nighters, don't do all-nighters, but doing all-nighters, like working on our second year films. And that's sort of how we grew closer. And by the time we were about to graduate college, we were like, shoot, industry's looking a little interesting right now. Maybe we should take on freelance work or something under our own name as like a studio, just as like a backup thing. And hey, who knows, maybe we'll like make some like funny social media videos for it, and that might do something.
That's super cool. I love that you're bringing up the weird like climate, where you're like, okay, this is not what we expected to see when we graduate, because I think like a lot of people are feeling this right now. So I like that y'all came together and decided to make something.
Yeah, it was super. It was a leap of faith. Some would even like, it might have even been like, I don't know, daunting or maybe even scary, but it's cool. I think it's turned out pretty cool so far.
It turned out way better than us could have expected. At least starting out, we thought it would take a little bit to gain some momentum, but we've gotten a lot of positive attention, and that helped us accelerate things a lot.
Yeah, we were fully expecting to kind of just like get by and like being like a very small thing, like maybe like at most like have a few thousand people following us as we like do our things, and maybe have like some videos that do well every now and then. And then like our first video that we posted got like hundreds of thousands of like views in like the first day. It was crazy.
Every single person we knew had been like, hey, I saw you on TikTok, are you making Studio Flimpo or something? Like
Are you making Flimp mode? Are you making chimp mode?
Are you going chimp mode?
Are you making guacamole?
Yeah.
No. So I mean, have you been able to pinpoint what it is that like okay, because I feel like every animation studio would be looking to capture what you did in a bottle. And I mean, and the thing is you've continued to keep it up and continued to do it. Do you think it's just the chemistry and the relatableness of y'all as kind of like just graduated underdogs, like making a thing, and everybody's out of a job, and you're like, we're trying to do something cool? Like, what do you think it is that made it catch on like that?
It's a combination of factors, I think. I think part of it one of the things we attribute it to is just the fact that we have like a central location, because a lot of animation studios, like, or independent ones at least, are like don't have a central office. And like the three of us, like it's only three of us and we all live together. So it's like just our home office, but just having that like actual location, I think helps. And so just being very consistent about our like uploads.
Yeah.
It helps that we're friends and that we like each other, for sure.
Yeah.
People love friendship.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it just came about, like you said, at a time where a lot of people were at odds with the industry, and seeing something like a group of like three, random artists who were buddies in not high school. Man,
we did not know each other from high school.
We were buddies in kindergarten.
No, we were across the country. Yeah, but just seeing, I think, this story of three people who had their dreams in animation, like do something pretty ballsy about it and really take off like running, I think is kind of a cool story. I'm trying to imagine it from the outside, but when things looked super bleak, and I guess they still do in the animation industry.
What are you talking about? Everything's totally fine.
Everything's normal. It's totally easy to break into the industry right now.
Yeah, I think a story like ours, and just being able to see it, like Reed said, in person, all come together and have people to root for, I think is what a lot of people maybe need right now. And it just so happens that that is what we decided would be our best course of action moving forward into the industry.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that story. And it is so true, because I think that's the thing where it's like a lot of even professionals that are like have been working in the quote unquote industry. Let's say like the big studios, because the industry is like such a nebulous word. Everybody's just like really sad. So I think it's like very inspiring for people that have had like even these like very long careers, you know, in these
Yeah.
studios. And it's so cool to see that, you know, like you all started this together. How did it feel like to start the studio? Like what, because I like to ask this question. It's you know, in when you're in animation school, everybody wants to like have their own studio, right? I feel like that's like a dream every animation student thinks about. And I wonder between the dream and the reality, kind of what that's like. Like, what did you imagine having a studio was going to be
Reality
like?
versus expectations. What was what was not what you expected?
This is a very interesting question, because I do feel like the aspiration of like showrunner or having your own animation studio is like the peak of creative aspirations, especially for young artists. And while I do think there's merit in that, because obviously it has some very cool perks, especially on the indie side, where it's just like a team of the three of us and maybe, you know, some friends of ours who we bring on as like contractors or just like helping on as extra hands. Like, it is so little of it is actually animating and making the animation. It's like, you know, like earlier today, Ren was going through like our bank statements, and we had to order like a Square reader for Lightbox, and I was placing orders for merch, and I had to write a bunch of emails, and there was some scheduling stuff we had to figure out, and like earlier we had to get plane tickets, and if any sort of miscommunication happens, or we also have to be our own agents. Like, there's so much work outside of just animating that has to be done, that it's good work, but obviously it's not what a lot of people expect in that blue sky sort of, you know, their own studio where they get to do wherever they want and make, you know, Has Been Hotel 2 or whatever the kids want.
You said that you're going to be at Lightbox Expo. Are you going to be tabling? Are you going to be? Do you have
As a matter of fact,
yes.
Our booth is booth number 1203. We will be right next to Jellybox, and I think also next to Cartoon Network Recruiting, if the map was right. That one's insane. We're also next to the bathrooms, so...
Two pivotal career locations.
For everybody listening, make sure that if you're going to Lightbox, check out the booth, because you're all going to have a booth, right? You're not going to be in the artist alley?
Yeah, it's an exhibitor booth.
No, it's an exhibitor, yeah.
Some combination of all the three of us, plus our FX animator, San, and maybe a couple other people in the Flimpo sphere will be in and out of that table selling lots and lots of cool, sweet merch. We'll be doing a giveaway. We'll have a little drawing space. You can point and laugh at us like we're a zoo exhibit. You know, whatever you want.
I'd love to go back in time a little bit and talk with you about, in the beginning stages of forming this studio, what did you feel yourselves falling into certain roles more like neatly? Like, was it like, oh, I'm probably going to do most of the backgrounds, or like our character style, the style of our characters might look like mine? Or are y'all like trading off, like, hey, like I'm developing this one and then next time we'll develop yours? Like, how did you work that out in between three creative people?
That's a great question.
Sure. So there's definitely a bit of both. I'd say that there are roles that some of us do more often than others. For example, Milo in the art side of things does a lot of backgrounds and compositing, just because those are the things that they like. Have also taken the lead as lead social media manager. Meanwhile, for things like bookkeeping and, you know, making schedules and things like that, I have done a bit of that, like quite taken the lead in that and setting up the formal business registration and things. And then I'm going to be the one directing Mandelbrot Hall, and REID does a lot of the character design. He is pretty heavily involved in background paint a lot of the time. There's inevitably a lot of switching around of roles, but there are ones that we tend to gravitate towards to the most, just because it's easier when it's more consistent. I'd say it also depends on what we're working on. So for example, we have a project we're on right now that REID taking the helm in doing most of the animation for it and basically directing the rest of us. So we trade hands a lot, but ultimately there are roles that we tend to fall into more than others.
It does work out quite nicely as far as like abilities between three people are concerned. Like, you know, I think in the art school sphere, or just like especially like young artists, there's like an abundance of character designers and people that want to maybe do storyboards or something, and then it's like, is anyone here a prop designer? And no one, not a single person. Can please someone draw a car?
Can anybody draw a hot
just
dog?
one car?
Anybody? We need to turn around to this French fry. Come on, please.
So I think as far as that goes, like the skill distribution actually worked out pretty well, and there's definitely a bit of both though.
Yeah, I think that something that really set us up for success was probably just the fact we worked together on our group film third year.
Oh, okay.
Our third year group film at SVA. Milo was like the one who like pitched the film that we ended up making. Ren was the production coordinator and I was lead storyboard. So we were all kind of in like head like positions, like leadership positions. And so we all communicated and worked well together, and so that was kind of like the first test run, and we're like, oh yeah, we could like totally work together again after we like graduated.
It was like a really interesting litmus test too, because it was like we had an incredible third year class. Like the students like within it, like our classmates were really, really great, but it's like, okay, you have half a college term to make a short film. You can't fire anyone, and you're also still going to college in every other class. So if you can survive that, in not just the roles that we were in, but any other role, then you're probably set.
Oh, and also other assignments in that same class.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a doozy.
Which he got rid of.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's pretty impressive that y'all found each other in, like, for the thesis film, because I feel like that's when like blood is shed and like is like arguments like start and everything.
It's so funny because like obviously I think it wasn't an easy film to make. Sky Vandal was the film, which is on the YouTube channel for Studio Flimpo. It's not monetized or anything. We're not earning money or anything off of like other people's work, and we put everyone's portfolio in the thing in the description. But like, you know, it was rough. Like, there were people staying up all night to make, you know, like the score, or, you know, doing cleanup work, piecing together comp and everything. But the one like common thread between everyone on the team is that, you know, people were openly happy about making the project. Like, they thought it was a cool film, and they thought that me and Ren were doing a good job. And that was really a wake-up call, because like I didn't really think that I would be good enough for a leadership role at that point in my artistic development, so it kind of inspired me to pursue that.
Well, I know how group projects are sometimes. I'm wondering, was there like, you know, like the Grumpo twins that you had to drop because they wouldn't do anything on the group project? Was it like, like the Facebook story where like there was like the competing twins that like said, you know, like we were part of it first and then you dropped us? Like, are we going to hear a story come out about the Grumpo twins or something?
That's the thing. Here's the thing. We couldn't do that. Like, so it was like everyone in the class had to be working on the project.
Yeah. And it was like for a grade too. And not like, obviously there were things that like, you know, little squabbles that happened during production. Thankfully,
sure,
we like it wasn't anything compared to like what we heard like legends of from previous productions, or even concurrent ones that were happening in other classes. Not to say that our production was perfect or anything, it was far from perfect, but like we couldn't exactly kick out like, you know, the WA Flimpo. Like we didn't have any like evil villain or anything. I know. The WA Flimpo is still out there.
That's what Milo is saying, at least.
Well, you can always find a nemesis later. You guys are young.
Oh my god.
But a quick clarification too. So this was our third year film. So SVA has us do a lot of over the course of attending the animation program. So for our third year at college, we actually had two films that we had to make. We made a group film that was our entire class. This is Sky Vandal. This was led by Milo and myself, and Reed was the lead storyboard and character artist. But we also had another film that was in the spring semester that each of us did ourselves. And then neither of these are the thesis film. And the thesis film was in fourth year, which we all worked on ourselves. And we didn't share a thesis project. The Everything is Okay show actually was Milo's thesis project, which, you know, we in our own ways, like, did little tiny contributions to it, like bouncing ideas off of each other and things like that. But ultimately, that was spearheaded by Milo and a small team that they recruited. But just like clarifying that, as much as like that was a formative experience for us, that wasn't even the thesis film.
A lot of films they make you make at SVA. A lot of films. None of us have ever finished our second third year film. Each of us have a third year film that we have started, gotten good progress in, and have never finished, and maybe even one day will turn into something, but not that day is not today.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's been so long that I'm just like, oh, there are whole scenes that I need to go back and reboard.
Yeah, I would literally just like start the whole thing over at this point. But there's 3 pieces of Flimpo Lost Media out there for those of you sleuths. I don't know if it's uploaded anywhere, but there's bits and pieces.
I know that my boards for it are up on my website, I believe.
Oh,
I think I made a few TikToks about Yuzu Scooter. I'll give you the title. You don't have to search for that.
Yeah, my boards might be up too. My film from my third year is called Smooth Brian, and it's about a guy named Brian who wants his brain to be smoothed out because he's too sad and he wants to stop thinking.
That is very relatable, I think, for current internet. Yeah.
I've literally wanted Smooth Brian to be real for so long just so I could reference it and so that other people could know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Do you think our brains get even wrinklier when we get old, just like the outside of us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What a nice thought.
I wanted to pick up back at, y'all had just dropped your first, like, I guess, viral TikTok. It sounds so weird talking about this. Viral, your first hit viral TikTok social media company. I don't know. But
we have a recurring bit where anytime like anything we post gets any amount of views at all, one of us says like to the other, like, guys, I think we're going viral. And this also,
check the analytics.
For whatever reason, yeah, for some reason or another, like our TikTok analytics like are really bad right now. Who knows why? Like we posted our Genshin Impact animation there, and it got like there was a video that we posted after that was just like a regular update, like funny video, and it got 2 views in 10 minutes, and that was a very funny.
It was so funny.
It was like totally broken or whatever. It didn't matter.
It's like, why are you betraying us?
We have hundreds of thousands of followers on there. It was like 2 views, and we were like, what is happening?
But
it's like all those people are getting shown that thing, and they all just like look away at once. They're like, no.
Yeah, like, everyone collectively was just like, this sucks.
Whatever.
Well, especially because Genshin's so popular, that's so crazy. But I mean, TikTok is like infamous for being extremely unreliable. Out of all the platforms, no matter how many followers you have, it's like, it's such a crapshoot every time you post.
But then you can hit the lottery sometimes, and that's because people love gambling. So they're like, my very first video could just get 1 million views out of nowhere, and it's not even like a crazy video I'm posting. Cool,
That's true. I saw, I forget if it was an article or a video or whatever, but somebody literally was highlighting this, the way the algorithm is created for TikTok, which is very different from the other algorithms, does play on that. They're like, okay. And apparently the more followers you have, the harder it is for you to get views, which is crazy. Yeah, it's like that platform. It's like so enticing at the beginning because at the beginning it like really loves you, and then it's like on to the next.
Well, is there anything that y'all have felt like you've learned about either Instagram or TikTok in particular that might be like a, I don't know, a fun fact that some people might not know or something?
I don't know if it's a fun fact that people don't know, but the thing about social media virality in the current age, especially, is that it really is like a lottery. It's kind of very random. So the way that you have to go about it is that you don't count necessarily. You hold yourself to a certain standard and you want to make videos that people will like, but you don't dive too deep into going like, oh geez, what are all like this, like what's the formula to creating and cracking the perfect viral video consistently, and it'll happen. That's probably the closest you can get to a formula to it, is just be consistent and carry on regardless of if you get 2 views or 2 million, as if you're always getting 2 million views, and people will like that.
Yeah.
Should we make videos that complain about not getting views? No, I'm just kidding. I got two comments on my last video and I'm pissed, and I just wanted to make a quick video update about it.
Most people can't read.
Okay, true.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah. Most people don't watch video. They'll like comments after not watching it. They'll ask questions that are answered in the video.
We have had videos sponsored by Toon Boom Harmony about using Toon Boom Harmony, where we show people how to animate in Toon Boom Harmony, and mentioning the name Toon Boom Harmony more than once in the video, include a tag in the description, and what do you think is comment number
what program
one?
Is
what
this?
Software? Yeah.
App?
What app?
What app?
What program?
What app? Yeah,
That's
no,
so
it's just...
funny, but it is so true. And I'm actually so glad that you are bringing this up, because when you do business online, you can't expect people to pick up on things. People are distracted, and you know how like as artists, and I don't know if you all feel this being in an animation studio, but you are basically selling like products, or at least your services. And it's this thing where it's like you have to be saying it like so many times in the video. And like you just said, it's crazy. Even saying the name of the friggin' app like 1 million times is still not enough.
Yeah, they're like, well, I guess to most people, like we're just saying like Toon Boom, like it just sounds like we're saying like onomatopoeias, just like
like a Star Wars alien language.
Yeah, so you're gonna want to draw with you're gonna want to draw with pow pow pow, and then they're like, what program is that? What app?
The program is Glupshido.
Yeah,
the program is Glupshido.
Oh my god.
That is just what like most like tablets are called now.
Glupshidos?
Glupshido. The Glupshido 15 with Pro Display and tablet. It has 9 bajillion pressure sensitivity levels.
That's so funny.
So when your first video popped off, were y'all like okay, we have to like figure out what to... How did you figure out what to do next? Like how to be consistent, all that stuff.
First of all, we had to finish getting groceries because our video hit like we hit 10,000 followers. We posted the video, we left to get groceries, and we hit 10K in Walmart.
Oh my god.
Wow.
And so that was what we had to do first. The next thing we had to do was like make a Patreon like immediately. Because people were asking. And we were like, oh my god, we didn't expect this to happen. And then we made one, and then that was like our next video. And after that, it was sort of a blur. That first week was just like a state of shock and disbelief that this was even happening at all. Like we were like reading comments out loud to each other of the ones that we got on the videos. Like sometimes it was like, oh my god, this animator from like DreamWorks just said that they're really inspired, or it's like, wow, this guy can't tell what gender we all are and think that we're all like failures of men.
He's like, reveal yourselves.
Dude, we get so many comments being like, oh, there's like negative testosterone levels in that basement. And it's just like,
oh my god.
Okay,
Girl,
dude.
literally one of the members of Studio Flimpo injects testosterone into him every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That is so.
And he's also the only man in Studio Flimpo.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, it sounds like you're all like taking it with like a lot of humor to kind of like, but like, does it ever kind of like get to you mentally reading these kind of comments, or are you just like, you know, the internet so well by now that you're like, haters gonna hate?
I mean,
It's mostly just like, whatever.
Thog don't care.
A lot of them are funny. We had a video early on where we read a bunch of comments that we thought were funny, and one of them was along the lines of some guy going like, how are they all young but old, ugly but beautiful, male but female? Interesting.
Honestly, that's kind of like a compliment, though. I feel like that's kind of
It
like,
is.
right? It's kind of like something to strive for.
Why do you look
Yeah.
like eternal? Why do you look
Yeah,
like eternal
right?
beings? Yeah.
Where are they,
Yeah, but-
beautiful elves?
I think
Yeah,
mostly
I
we
mean-
take it in stride. Occasionally there will be like a weird sexually charged comment that we'll read off, and
Yeah.
then one of us will make a face, and then we'll go about our day.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably the
You
worst.
kind of
it
just
gets.
have to laugh at it at a certain point, especially like from time to time. Whenever we make a video that does explicitly mention that like we are trans, or that like we are totally cool with trans people existing, or that some of our characters are trans, or some of our characters are gay, or something, or like any sort of thing like that, we do get comments that are like, wow, Studio Flimpo's gone woke, just like Disney, which is the kicker.
Unfollowing.
You
That's-
betrayed us. You tried to trick us into giving you money and then suddenly reveal your true agenda.
There's literally a trans flag in the background of most of our videos. If I had my webcam on, it's behind me right now.
Yeah, but they don't look at the videos or watch them or read any of it.
Yeah,
They don't look at the
That-
flags. Yeah.
no. Thog don't care.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes the comments are so like crazy just because no matter what you make, even if you make like the most conservative kind of thing where it's like women likes man, they're still gonna find a way to make it like, well, this is too woke. And I was like, what?
No, actually, men need to like the woman first.
Yeah.
Oh
It's
my
so funny.
god.
I
Yeah.
also did
I mean-
get a comment on like the Everything Is Okay show, because the comments on that are almost entirely positive, but the ones that aren't are like, I don't like that it's woke, but it's good otherwise. And I'm like, I'm glad you think that it's good otherwise.
Well, I can't just like it. I have to have an opinion,
Yeah.
which is this. But I guess that's
Mhm.
so funny. How instrumental do you think using the internet and making videos like seen on social media? How important is that to you getting work or like client work?
Unfortunately, it's very important. I wish it wasn't. It's just it's eyes on us. We had an incident where we had a very high profile client email us basically saying that they were interested in, possibly working on some development packages for a future project. And I forget the name of the guy, but the woman who called us was like, how do you guys know, like, Daniel? And we were like, we do not know who Daniel is. We believe that Daniel is a follower of our social media and has recommended us from that. We have no idea who this guy is. So it comes in very weird ways. Even if people don't see like the animation videos specifically, it helps grab attention, and that's very valuable right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to talk about what stage your crowdfunded project is in. I believe that you had a successful crowdfunding, correct?
We did!
Yeah, congratulations!
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yay, money. Ren's reworking the script right now, and it's doing great, honestly. I think it's absolutely kicking ass. It's a I don't want to it saying it was like a much needed rewrite makes it sound like the first script wasn't good. The first script was really good, but the second one, this one, I'm like, ooh, all right, okay,
You're cooking
now. We're cooking now.
Yeah, basically we brought on a producer who gave us some notes on like the script and just like general direction, or like basic like the core like things of the project are still like pretty much there, or like pretty much the same, but like it's a lot more clarified.
Yeah. I think what makes this episode good is that like before our episode was like, yes, it was a good episode in isolation, but now this episode is much more emblematic of what we want the whole series to be.
Nice.
And I'll let Ren speak on it more too, because obviously it's their project.
Oh, sure, yeah. So let me backtrack a little bit. In terms of development, before we launched the crowdfund, we got a lot of pre-production out of the way, largely with characters and locations. And we even made thumbnails for the previous version of the script just to, have a selection of scenes that we could make the trailer out of. And after the crowdfund, it helped us understand like the scope of how ambitious we can be with the project and what to do next, which led into the script's rewrite. It's been really cool so far. It's a little scary because it's like, wow, before what was just a little idea in my head that I was working on in college now has like $60,000 behind it, and I have like my coworkers and friends working with me.
Do you feel like your Goku and everybody has given you their energy to form a spirit bomb, but like what if you do miss Cell with it? Like what if you
that's
miss?
exactly how I feel.
That's the thing. You just you can't miss. That's just the thing. It just won't happen.
You can't miss, which is why you show it to your friends, you show it to your family, you read books, you make sure that what you're making is really kick-ass, and I think it is. It's, oh God, I wish I could talk more about the overall arc of the show and the sort of themes that we're showing off, but I think needless to say, it's very cool, and it's really cool even in these early stages, seeing it synthesized in front of an audience who already cares so much, just having seen so little. It's really exciting.
That's so cool.
Wow, that's so inspiring. That's so amazing. I love that you're both like obviously doing client work, but you're also pursuing your dreams, which is what I think is kind of the message that I think is so great to share with the internet right now, or all the animation fans and aspirational animation workers, is like you can still pursue your dream. It's so cool to see that like you like did a crowdfunding, and like how did you get the idea to get a producer to help you with this project?
So it was an idea that we had previously, but our current producer, who I can mention by name, his name's Evan, he actually came to us because he works at a day job at a studio and wanted, just out of curiosity for the project, to offer helping out like outside of his day job on the weekends as a producer, and if not that, just someone to like just talk about the script with and talk about the production with. And even in the very early stages, he's
studio and us indie. He wanted to like, he was interested in bridging the gap kind of between studio and indie.
Yes, and in that way he's been really incredible. And also, we, with a small team like ours, having anyone who's willing to hop on and help where they can is really valuable.
Now,
that's awesome.
I believe that we have a few listener questions. I don't know if we're going to get to them all, but I'd love to at least get to a few of them, even if we're just peppering them in and kind of being tangency about them.
Sure, yeah.
This is a great one from our patron, Puzzle Glum. What are everyone's opinions on how to make indie animation sustainable for the long run?
Don't overwork yourself. Just I think the biggest thing that's like helped us is just like, despite the fact that we are kind of like our own bosses and like we can like technically work whenever, that we basically stick to a work schedule of like 10 to 6 p.m. on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And we use Wednesdays as like a you can do some work that stay, but like this is also technically like a day off where you can work on personal projects, which I think is like way more sustainable. And it's just been, I think, really like I haven't gotten burnt out nearly as much as I did like in like college or whatever when we were working like constantly. We try not to work past like 7 o'clock at the latest. I think that it's a big problem of just like in the industry of people just like stay like pushing themselves to stay up way too late, working on like crunch time. And because we're able to set our own schedule, it's like we're able to like prevent ourselves from getting into like a crunch mindset.
Another thing is this really cool technique called give artists money. This sounds like a joke. It's totally not. You would be astonished the amount that just $1 to your favorite artist's Patreon or their Ko-Fi, or you want to buy something from their shop. Please, I guarantee you have no idea how much it will help. If there was just like a general culture of like, oh, I really like this artist a lot, I'll just give him $1 a month on Patreon, or like, why don't I treat myself and get like the cheapest thing from their merch shop once I have the funds for it. You will be helping in ways you cannot even begin to imagine, especially for those smaller artists. Because
they're in
like,
trouble.
Yeah.
they are so hungry.
Indie animation takes so much time and effort, and if you don't have the resources, you know, like basically every extra bit of support is another bit of time that you don't have to overwork yourself just to make the thing you want to make. We are so fortunate to be able to have a support network from our fans that allows us to cover, you know, we're not like living it up. We're basically just covering necessities, but like that's necessities taken care of, that we can now focus full throttle pretty much on Mandelbrot Hall and our client gigs. We would not be able to do that if it weren't for the 900 or so very generous people that decided, hey, I think once a month I'm gonna give my favorite creators $1. And if I can't do it that month, I'll stop. Maybe I'll come back, maybe I won't. That's okay. I've given them a few dollars. That's fine.
I think that is so huge what you just mentioned. I feel like a lot of people, I mean, for someone also who has a Ko-Fi page, sometimes I feel like people are a little bit scared to donate like to a membership, and it's like, oh, like don't feel like you have to stay in the membership for more even than a month. You can just kind of like hop in, hop out anytime. I think like any dollars at all. Much more.
We have a lot of people on the Flimpo Discord, because we have a Patreon exclusive Discord, who get like the $1 just to get in, and then they are there for a month or two, and then they leave. And that's totally chill. Obviously, everyone has, you know, different ways they can support, and some people can't, you know, give with money at all. Obviously, that's still an option. You know, people get paid with ad revenue from YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. And talking about it. Seriously, you have no idea how cool it is when you're scrolling and you see someone mention your studio, and it's not even, you didn't even search for it. It's just right there. It's just raw on the internet. That's crazy.
And you're okay with people just flimping and skimping like that?
Flipping it? Yeah. Flip and
Absolutely.
skip all you want. This is
doing a drive-by flimp and then...
Please! Do a drive-by flimp!
Support.
$1 is one more dollar that we wouldn't have had. So it really does go a long way. It's not lip service. We're not saying it to make people on our social media feel better. It has allowed us to continue our studio. So if there's anything about keeping indie animation sustainable, I totally agree with REID on the work side. Don't burn yourself out. And on the fan side, support them out loud. If you can, with money, but if not, with your heart, and talk about it and show all your friends and family.
I want to chime in here too, because we've been talking a lot about like sustainability from, you know, an individual scale or things like that. But I think for indie creators out there, something that we all need to remember is that indie is not supposed to be like a replacement for big studio productions. We're something else. We're small and scrappy. And a lot of what makes indie special is the fact that we have creative control over what we're making and that we can just put it out there. I want to say that when making your projects, if you're an indie creator out there, you don't need to make your show look like the Owl House.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't.
Yes. Yes.
For your own sake, don't do that.
Yeah, one of my favorite indie productions out there is Big Top Burger, which is just really charming, really scrappy. We have a friend named M. Zulo who makes a lot of short films, and they don't look like they're on Disney TVA. They look like they're drawn by people, and they still are like incredible pieces of art. But it's important to remember that you don't need to hold yourself to the standard of like a big corporation that has a bunch of people working under crunch, and you shouldn't. And that's not even necessary to make great art. I think that being able to just like scale it to what you're capable of while still having that creative control is what makes indie really cool. And if you're looking at sustainability for the sort of ecosystem, the indie ecosystem in the long run, just being able to preserve that heart of making projects sustainable in their DNA is really important. We're not trying to emulate, like, it's not important. If you want to emulate something that's like a lot more high production value, then that's cool, but that isn't necessary. And I really think if the indie space wants to keep growing, then people not being afraid to just put out their art as it is really important.
Yeah, and real quick, if you want to find out about the artist behind Big Top Burger, Worthy Kids, there's a Worthy Kids episode of Creator Block, episode 31. Check it out.
That's right. He was on here.
Hey!
That's so cool. That's so cool.
Such an inspirational episode. These are great answers. I love that you're bringing up the fact that indie animation doesn't have to look like a Disney TV production. I think this is so true. I think sometimes we have like amazing creators kind of burning out and trying to like reach that quality. And I think sometimes it's just so much more almost like relatable and exciting to see something as an audience person, to see like a video doing well that is a little bit more scrappy.
Yeah.
We have a question from Instagram _sketchtunes asked, how, where, and when did you guys come up with the idea for Mandelbrot Hall?
This is another question that I can answer. So Mandelbrot Hall originated in the very beginning of 2023 in a class that both Milo and I were in. It was a class for developing an animated series. And basically in that class, you would learn how to make a pitch Bible and pitch and create an animated series for TV. And I had the idea for Mandelbrot Hall in that class because a lot of people in that class were doing ideas that maybe they had held on to for, several years at that point, but I wanted to do something new. And I am really a big fan of horror, especially like psychological horror. And I feel like there's currently, or at least there was, I think it's growing, there's a gap in animation right now for a lot of that kind of horror, and there's a bunch of space for it to grow. So for Mandelbrot Hall, I was like, all right, what if you took this idea of a sitcom set in a college setting, an art college, because that's what I was in at the time, and gave it that horror twist. I went from there. Milo gave me some great ideas while I was like figuring out the world and the characters and stuff. We bounced back with each other, back and forth on the name. At first, Mandelbrot Hall was just called AEIOU, which is the name of the university that the characters go to. But we settled on like fractal imagery because they're really creepy and cool. And the Mandelbrot set is a fractal, so we named it Mandelbrot Hall.
It's also in the class itself, like each of us had to have our own like pitch Bible. So I was not really allowed to work with Ren on Mandelbrot, but like I think the reason why Sky Vandal was a winning pitch when we did our third year film is because me and Ren like basically went back and forth in the idea, like behind the back of the professor, going like, oh, what if it was this, this, that, and developing it.
Well, just by nature of y'all being roommates at the time.
Yeah, we were roommates at the time.
Professor, if you're listening to this, retroactive failure of the class.
Yeah, sorry, Frank. I'm pretty sure he knows about that anyways. But anyways, like I was like, oh man, I cannot wait. Like after this project is done, like after this class is done, so like I can really like hop on this and start drawing some stuff for this, because I think I was making a pitch bible for a show that I had held dear for a very long time. Like everyone else, I was doing exactly what Ren said, but I ultimately think what Ren did was the right choice, because here we are.
That's so exciting. I'm excited for you to be able to it's hard when all your time is taken up by a certain thing, and everybody always has those extra projects on the back burner. And I just want to say, like, I'm proud of y'all for like picking a project and sticking with it. And it's so easy to like get a new idea each week and then like, okay, I'll finish that one later. Like you have really committed. And I wanted to know about like, what's the discipline that's gone into like making yourself stick to a thing? Is it just doing the crowdfunding thing, or was it kicking into gear before that even?
I definitely think a big part of it is that we really like this project. It kicks ass and we want to see it done, because like the idea of it being done is very invigorating. But also like definitely having the thousands of people that have like invested actual money into seeing it complete is a big motivator now.
That helps.
So
yeah,
it does help. But I'm just speaking for me, like I want to see it made. I think it's kick-ass and I want it done. That's why I'm super driven on it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I've always been a big like horror fan, so I was like, as soon as like Ren was like talking about this, because I wasn't in the same class as these two, but we all walked back from classes together because I had another class at the same time, and they'd always be like bouncing back and forth ideas, and I was just like, damn, this is really cool. So, and just working on a horror animated project is something that is just like awesome to me, like dream come true.
I'd
That's so
like to
cool.
think that besides these two's really flattering answer of it's just cool, part of it is that we have an idea of the scope of it. So what we're working on right now is just a pilot episode. I think it's easy to get carried away with when you have like, okay, we're going to make like the whole series, and when are we going to make the whole series and how are we going to fund it? I don't know. But the fact that we have this goal in mind of like a 15-minute pilot episode and where it goes from there, it can go any direction. The fact that that sort of concrete goal is in mind, it makes it much more of like a solid goal to reach, more than just like an idea of like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if one day we were able to do this? It's the idea like, okay, all of us have experience making short films. We've each made short films that are around 5 minutes long. What if we just combined all of that into 15 minutes and then we made that? I think just the feasibility of the project has helped it like stay afloat. I wrote the original script in a way where it's like the characters aren't traveling through like 50 different worlds and we don't have to draw like a billion backgrounds for it. The characters are like designed in a way that
you can stand to draw them more than once.
Yeah, there's not like a super huge amount of line mileage for each of them.
Yeah.
And sort of founding the idea for the project on that has really helped. Like, heck, even if we were to go like, oh, we want to make the whole series, the plan for Mandelbrot Hall is for it to be a limited series. I want there to be about 12 episodes and then it can end there, or you can continue to tell stories in that world, but there's like a definitive goal there, and I think that helps a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. I love the way that you're describing it, like thinking also about making something feasible, because I feel like that's something that can be kind of lost to just like sheer desire of doing something really cool and impressive and everything. But you can do something really cool and impressive with like a very limited setting and simpler designs. And I think that shows a lot of like just like really smart thinking. I wanted to get to that A question from our patron Bits Bitais. They're asking, hey, I wanted to know if the little videos you post online help the studio's popularity overall, and if you think it's a good move to do those and post on social media, not only for studios, but for artists in general.
For artists in general, I would say yes, but you don't have to worry about copying a specific template of another artist that is successful. The reason that our videos were successful is because they worked incredibly well for who we are. We are 3 recent graduates working out of a basement with an animation studio. That's very interesting on its own, and it's a journey that people want to follow, but that might not be the journey that, you are on. Maybe you're one person who's trying to complete a much shorter project, but you have a bigger setback, like you just experienced a pretty harsh, life event, or you only have so much time in a day, or maybe it's just a very interesting premise you want to hook people on the narrative of your work rather than the conditions it's being made under. I think the goal of your social media brand, I hate calling it that because you are not a brand and the stuff you make isn't content, it's art and it has a story. If you tell that as effectively as possible through your social media, then do that. But if you don't want to, it's not required. You can just make a LinkedIn and talk to people in real life, and that seems to work fine for other people. But tell your story. Don't make content. Please, for the love of God, don't make content. There's enough of it out there.
And to clarify what Milo is saying, just so you don't interpret it wrong, we mean to not make content, make art.
Yes.
Your
make videos. Make drawings.
Your creative output is more than stuff to feed an algorithm, basically. You need to be making stuff for you and for the people you want to see it and care about it. Just make sure that you keep that core of making art instead of making something that is jingling keys in front of a baby, Yeah,
because then you'll just end up with 500,000 babies that you have to jingle keys for every day, and no one likes that.
Yeah, you're stuck doing key jangling animation for the rest of your life.
Yeah, but I want to make serious shonen anime. No, gotta make the keys, or else you'll get a comment from a baby saying, "Bro, you fell off."
That's actually that's actually how prop designers train. They just animate key jangling for babies over and over.
That's true.
So funny.
From Newgrounds, we have Belyev's Fox asking, how does crowdfunding change the way you approach animation work compared to traditional support from a major studio?
Big difference in crowdfunding versus traditional support from a major studio is that major studios tend to give you more money. So
yes.
you have to be a lot more resourceful about your crowdfunding money. And you usually also have to cater to your backers, whether it's the merchandise that you promised with their perk or regular updates. But, with a regular studio, it's you have shareholders and executives to please, or maybe just your boss. So
yeah, I think you're getting less money. There's definitely considerations about merchandise and stuff, but I think the trade-off is that you have more creative control. While executives at a big studio, they're funding your project and likely will be breathing down your neck, checking to or maybe not, they are going to be very on top of every aspect of the project and will usually have more ability to kind of sway the creative choices. Meanwhile, for this, it's people have given us this money, trusting, based off of our pitch, and there is definitely more trust involved with it. We're just there's more trust involved because there's no guarantee that it'll be exactly what they imagine it to be. The project, they are just putting money into it for it to happen. And it's a bit more of a gamble for crowdfunding, I think, for the investors.
Little Lamb on Instagram is asking, what's the most challenging thing about running an indie studio?
Taxes.
True.
Yeah.
It's definitely the fact that you have to do so many jobs. You have to be your own boss. You need to do all the things that you would do in an animation pipeline, and also all the producing, and then the social media, and then, handling taxes. And there's a certain amount that you can get help from other people. For example, if you have the means to get like an accountant for bookkeeping, or bring on a producer like we did. But even then, you are still doing so many jobs. You're managing your own finances and living your whole life under yourself as a boss. And I guess a lot of people who are self-employed have a similar sort of struggle, but it's more work than just like making cartoons. And it's easy to get really excited just making cartoons, in which case you probably just want to like make a project with your friends, which is totally cool.
Yeah.
But all of the scope of managing a studio is like, it multiplies that work by a lot.
There's also something to be said about, if you make an indie studio with your friends, it's like you now have a business relationship with your friends that should ideally stay separate from the regular relationship you have with them in your day-to-day life. And it can be tricky to balance that sometimes, because like, do you want to say something like as a friend, or like as a coworker, or as like, maybe a lead in a project. Like a big thing that we are like super strict on is like when work ends and where work starts. Mm-hmm. Just because, blending those two parts of your life can get really unhealthy. So I definitely think like, if you're really wanting to, start a studio with your friends, know that they will have to be more than just your friends at that point, which is admittedly not for everyone.
And we don't mean lovers.
And we don't
we mean coworkers.
Yes.
HR?
More than friends in the business sense.
Yeah.
How do you handle that, by the way? Because that can be really hard. Because I think that's what you're saying right now is exactly why it's so hard to do these like group projects in like school, right? It's like, well, you used to be friends and now you're like quote unquote coworkers. And then so how do you three kind of manage to switch back and forth between like the friend mode and coworker mode?
Well, I think one of the first things we did was we made a contract basically about like the studio to kind of like outline like things, because we were advised by Chris Panowski.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Chris.
Yeah, shout out to Chris.
Yeah, he advised us like the first thing you need to do with your studio is make an operating agreement, because like if you want to stay friends, you need to get that down immediately. And we took that to heart. I think that part of it is like we fortunately just have personalities that kind of work out to make it kind of a bit more work out smoothly. Like none of us are like especially quick to anger, and can deal with like pressure and frustration pretty well. So like we're all pretty level-headed.
We don't like hold grudges or anything.
Yeah. We're all pretty level-headed, which helps a lot. And we've never had like any like real like arguments or anything break out, because you have to have a very open line of communication.
Real quick, shout out to Chris Pernosky, episode 42, if you want to hear about the creator of Titmouse Studios.
Everybody's on this podcast, man.
That's what happens when you're in a small world like animation.
Yeah, right. Be nice to everybody. That's the big lesson. Be nice to everyone.
Chris Pernosky is the executive producer on my Adult Swim Smalls cartoon that's coming out tomorrow.
What?
Oh, well.
Awesome.
When this episode comes out, the short from Sean has already come out like 3 weeks prior.
That's true, but it's never too late to watch them. By the time this comes out, all 3 episodes will be out on Adult Swim's YouTube channel. It's called Bodyhead. Thank you.
That's so cool. I can't wait to see that.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Nice. That's really funny.
I'm excited. At Hudson B, PD3UD. I don't know. That's just a secret code. They asked, what is the best part of animation in your opinion? And I'm going to reformulate this a little bit. Can you guys just each give your favorite part of the animation process?
I'm biased because I'm a compositor, but I think comp is really great because you get to put everything together and add the effects, and it really feels like you're cooking. It feels like you're taking like things that you've anguished over and turning it into like a real life cartoon. And it always gets me really excited because I think it's definitely like one of my stronger skills. Background design, I feel pretty confident with. Animation, I feel confident with. But like comp I feel like very quickly I can see results, and I have just like, it is the way that I think. So whenever it's also like once you're at comp, you've gone through the trenches. You've been through it. So like,
it's when you see the light at the end of the tunnel.
It really is, because like there's a shot in the Mandelbrot Hall trailer that was a really comp heavy shot where Jackie opens the laundry machine and looks into like this crazy fractal abyss, and like once like putting that shot together and being like, oh baby, it actually is looking like a real shot, because before we couldn't really do anything to show the full scope of that shot like in boards or in animation. We just had to be like, just trust me, bro, it'll look really cool.
You just write in shit be crazy, like literally, in the little storyboard.
I actually think in the boards, like we wrote like, you know, like spinning leaves or some shit. But it is such a fun light at the end of the tunnel moment that I feel very comfortable in skill-wise that personally it is my favorite. That's my answer.
Complete opposite direction from Milo. My favorite part is storyboarding, particularly getting into the animatic phase. I think it's really, really cool to take like a script, or even if it's not scripted, just like your idea of how things might play out and finally be able to visualize that. I find like the big strokes of character acting is really fun. And in the animatic phase, it's like, oh my God, I'm watching something. Like this is... It appears to me, especially when you have, even with scratch audio, but when you have like voice actors and you have, you know, the very bare bones of what this thing could be, it's just really cool to see that start to come together. And of course, I really like just doing, like I said, broad strokes of character acting and doing like composition and shot choreography and all that.
Yeah, I think that I have always been like very big on like the character design exploration phase. Like I just love like kind of figuring out shape language and everything. I also just really love character acting, animation, like drawing expressions, I think is like probably one of my favorite things. Just like trying to get across a particular emotion in as few lines as possible. Like, and there's like so many, like the smallest little tweak of a line can completely change the vibe. I really like, that's always been a favorite part of the process for me. Yeah, and just kind of like exploring. I like being loose. I work very loosely usually. So that's like probably usually when I'm like having a lot of fun. That and rough animation.
Hey, isn't it cool that like all three of us have different favorite parts, and it generally lines up with pre-production, production, and post-production?
No wonder you get along and don't butt heads.
Yeah.
Y'all should be making a studio together, it sounds like.
You should think about it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
We'll get back to you on that.
Well, speaking of light at the end of the tunnel,
I think it is the end of this creative block. What? Everyone, Milo, Ren, Reed, thank you so much for being our guest and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of course.
This is the first time that Creative Block has been good.
What a coincidence that it coincides with you coming on.
Oh, I meant like Creative Block, the sensation of creativity.
Clip that. Clip that. Very spicy take.
No.
That's
this
funny.
Is such a good podcast.
Viral on TikTok. Viral on TikTok.
No. Having a creative block has never felt this good.
Having a creative... Having a creative block has never felt this good.
A creative block has never tasted so yummy. Thank you.
That original clip was good. We can get Milo canceled.
Yeah, let's do it.
For hating. Yay!
The Google Doc is gonna be bad. Oh no!
Well, this is the scandal we've been waiting for, so that now we get a lot more views.
We need it, and I also want to give a quick thanks to all our listeners, aka the people that'll be doing the canceling out there. Follow us on social media at CRTV Block, where we ask for drawing prompts and questions to ask our guests. Huge thanks to our editor Clemens for editing the podcast, Marco for helping us produce the show, and Abuka for creating the short clips that you might have been seeing on our social media.
If you love our show, you can support us on Patreon. Becoming a patron gets you early access to interviews and access to our Discord community. We've also just started doing little monthly show and tells or whatever, just like for all of our patrons to kind of share their work and get feedback from each other. Another great way you can support us is by just engaging with our content. You can subscribe, comment, like, all of these things. It pleases the algorithm and helps our podcast reach more people who would love this podcast. Click the link in the description of this episode to also follow Studio Flimpo on all platforms. I've been your host, V.
And I was Lord Spew. Keep being creative, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.